as I was again trying to compare India's defenses and kind of associating it with the human body, the breaking of and creating the Union Territory of Ladakh to me was one of the best steps, because we at least now got our brain think in the right place and thinking right, which means essentially now, since Ladakh technically is our head and brain, you really need to build its defenses, its infrastructure, and absolutely optimize its economic activity to get it to hum, and so that it's totally fully there when if China were to take it on. And in that respect, when you see this, you are kind of encouraged and impressed. This is the world's highest rail bridge arch completed in Chenab, and this kind of further improves the accessibility of Ladakh from the plains. Or you also need to obviously further build, and you built that the Vajpayee tunnel, I think, is near Manali. And the other one is Ladakh signs land deal for solar battery in its green quest. I have been saying numerous times that Ladakh is the solar capital of the world, a solar capital for India. I mean, how we evacuate the solar power, I'm not so sure yet, but I'm sure there will be technology that will allow us to do that economically. But what is critical there, because of the kind of climate, the kind of cleanliness, the kind of environment, the availability of solar power, the availability of water, dry air, is to set up a semiconductor fab plant. And what a hit it would be if the Taiwanese company was to set it up there. Important geostrategic messaging to China, right? Next, what do we have? Next round of military talks on LSE Row, likely on April 9th. What is my call on it? I don't think China is going to move out of the areas they occupy. We are definitely not getting to status quo ante. And we have the CDSA, China capable of launching cyber attacks, disrupting systems. What do you mean capable? India's experiences, Mr. CDS. We've had this in Bombay. Why are we hiding? Why don't we face the reality? Just because it shows us in bad light? Obviously it does. We are totally unprepared for those attacks. They've already happened, and anybody, especially somebody as senior as CDS, suggesting that they only have the capability is deluding us and sending us the wrong impression. So it says India working on offensive cyber tech too. I'm glad. Fantastic. I wonder what we were doing so far, right? But South China Sea beginning to get hot. Philippines warns China of hostilities over SCS incursion. And what do we have? Taiwan reports new China air missions. Japan expresses concerns to China on Hong Kong, territorial waters and Uyghurs. So that whole area, and let me just say this, the spine is building in the South China Sea, essentially because of now the presence of the United States in full color. And a lot of this had to do with how India stared down China. All those naysayers who continue to think that India is too weak didn't happen. It was because of that, right? We may have lost the tactical advantage, but our geopolitical advantages continue to thrive. Then we have military drills near Taiwan. China says will do it regularly. Taiwan says it will fight to the end if there's war. China sends more jets. Now, this is a very interesting piece of news that you should all know. Taiwan says India helped Paraguay get vaccines after China pressure. So when China was pressuring Paraguay, like this is one of the few countries left that recognizes Taiwan, to de-recognize Taiwan. However, and stop the vaccine, holding them hostage, but India came to the rescue of Taiwan here. Fantastic. That shows India is getting out of its slumber. China cautions Japan against teaming up with US ahead of Biden's Suga meet. Oof. And what we have there you can see the picture developing. Japan's PM plans to visit India later this month. Well, right after he's giving that message to China, that's interesting. Then we have Quad navies join France-led drills in Indian Ocean region. This is another very interesting thing, because now you have Quad +1 for sure. And France is an Indo-Pacific country because of its access to a number of bases, whether in the Indian Ocean or the Pacific Ocean, right? And what are we saying? While China was bleating up and down, drilled to ensure freedom of seas, says Navy. Yes. And we have naval exercise between Quad and France should be conducive for regional peace, says China. Well, the regional peace, let me just tell China and Xi and Wang Yi, is absolutely dependent on China. The onus is on them, folks, and it's about time we told them to their face. Quad exercise begins day after Russia rejects bloc approach. So here, Sergei Lavrov was all over the place, right? And basically, rejecting the bloc approach. And he's like, you know what? He reminds me of the saying, Greek bearing gifts. This is Russia bearing gifts. Don't trust him, folks. And then here, Nepal. What are we going to do with Nepal? UP man shot by Nepal cop dies in Lucknow hospital. And what do we have here? Lanka gives preference to Indian and Russian vaccine over Chinese. Decision after Beijing first administered vaccine only to Chinese nationals in Lanka, and opposition accused Rajpaksa government of succumbing to pressure. And here's what Rajpaksa and his kin should get into their clothes and skin. The Chinese think they are a bunch of yahoos, just like us. They think they definitely don't think of Sri Lankans as at par with them, folks. Another piece of news, China says its carrier group exercising near Taiwan drills will become regular. Well, I see the South China Sea becoming hot and hot under the collar, how that goes around, how China handles that, the United States handles that, and how India is able to use that to its advantage is something for us to see. But now let's again talk about the body, right? Here we have, like I said, weakness, left shoulder, strength, Bangladesh, bicep. This part of the arm is obviously the northeast. The swinger represents Myanmar, and there is trouble in our left fingers. It's time now, obviously. Earlier we thought it was just a pure binary supporting the junta because we felt that China otherwise would get a leg up. But I think now the point has come with the kind of number of deaths and the kind of violence being used by the Tatmadaw against the people of Myanmar that India really cannot stand on the side, because it's a solid impact on our democratic credentials, right? So another important part that we have to note while we're doing the changes we've made is important. Is an article in the Foreign Post by Emily Fishburne Ko San Lam, says protests unite Myanmar ethnic groups against common foe. He says, now terrorized by the military themselves, many people from the Burma ethnic majority are developing sense of solidarity with the country's numerous minority groups. Public apologies for years of indifference and denial of minority people's experience have proliferated. Right? Before the coup, military violence and governance operation of ethnic minorities evoked only weak response from the Burmese public. Not anymore. He says, I believe the current demonstrations have brought unity amongst us. Until recently, Burma public largely rejected or ignored the mounting documentation of the Tatmadaw's abuses against Rohingyas and other ethnic minorities in Kachin, Shan, Karen and Rakhine state. When Aung San Suu Kyi appeared at the Hague, her supporters had held large rallies back home. But since the coup, calls are growing for international justice system to hold the Tatmadaw accountable for its current and past actions. We were all brainwashed since we were very young. Burman people are also increasingly joining minorities in supporting ethnic armed organization, hoping these groups help counter the military regime through the establishment of a federal army, including combined ethnic forces, right? And then what do we have? Sanjoy Hazarka, right? Relooking at Myanmar. Delhi signals welcome change in policy. Long-term approach to issue of refugees is needed. He says, after a closed-door UNSC meeting on Myanmar, Tirumuthi tweet condemned the violence, condoled the loss of life, called for the release of detained leaders, and urged maximum restraint. The social message significantly said that the situation must be met hopes and aspirations of the people, and underlined India's commitment to a democratic transition. Bakchi was more unequivocal. Let me be very clear. We believe that the rule of law should prevail. We stand for the restoration of democracy in Myanmar. The language is the bluntest so far by India on Myanmar and a response to criticism of its earlier stand within and outside the country. And that concerns are two. One is the people, and the second is the future stability and security of Northeast, as well as the policies that have been emphatically espoused at the highest level of the government. Act East neighborhood first policies are anchored in the 8 states of the Northeast. Young people in the majority Brahmin and Buddhist dominant heartland, disobedience is there, right? Then he says not less than 4 states, AP, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, have long borders with Myanmar, and the last 2 states have taken about some 1,500 persons, including a number of junior police officials fleeing from the crackdown in the bordering Chin state. What many in the country need to understand is that Chins in Myanmar and the Mizos and Kukis and subgroups in Mizoram and Manipur are kin. A historical affinity connects them by ethnicity, religion, language. The present situation provides an opportunity for it. Okay. Then we says it's getting bad. Myanmar forces killed 7 protesters. Chinese-owned factory set ablaze, and this is the important part. India just doesn't want to get there. Right now, the bad boy is China. India, by quickly now changing its tact and now supporting the people, is actually probably now has countered China a lot better. Things in Myanmar not good at all. Like I said, Myanmar Janta cuts net. Anti-coup protesters say they'll not surrender. And like I said, I'm coming back from the refugees coming into India and the close kinship between people of borders of Mizoram, Manipur, and Arunachal Pradesh, with those of the Chin area of Myanmar, makes it a very difficult prospect. It's a handover corps who have taken refuge. Myanmar tells India. Number of Myanmaris crossing over hits 3,000. And there was an earlier stupid reaction from the center. MHA advisory on Myanmaris not acceptable. Mizoram CM tells Modi. Absolutely right. Manipur retracts order to turn away refugees. And as somebody said, listen to Mizoram. It says for now Delhi needs to listen to the urgent voices from Mizoram. True, India has much at stake in Myanmar in security and strategic terms. But if the Northeast is key to India's Look East policy, the centre cannot afford to simply brush aside the concerns of a chief minister of an important border state. If the situation in Myanmar does not improve, what is happening today in Mizoram could well spread to Manipur and other states as well. And somebody said that time, send a message to Myanmar. This approach is unsustainable. One India as a democracy which distinguishes itself from China on the count cannot turn a blind eye to bloodshed in the neighborhood. 2. Even if one were to take a realpolitik rather than an ethical view, it is clear that the military regime, despite its hold over the state, is losing its legitimacy in society, and it's not seeming to be invincible anymore. That's the important part. 3. The crisis has resulted in refugees flow to India. The Manipur government's inhuman notification denying any support to refugees has fortunately been withdrawn, but it shows that India will have to grapple with the cross-border impact of the political crisis. And 4. India's Western allies are looking to South Bloc to take a principled position. New Delhi may not have the leverage to change Tatmadawar's behavior, but it does have the standing to send a stern public and private message to the dictators in Naypyidaw, restore democracy now, and India has finally done it. And it says, nuanced approach to Myanmar struggles. New Delhi should back the democratic aspirations of the people of Myanmar, and this is important, folks. Now that you can see what's happening, like I've said, with the majority community not all coming together with the minorities against the Tatmadaw, it is time for India's stance to have changed from just a binary of China, right? That is important. It says, New Delhi must ensure the safety of over 100 Indian private companies operating in the country and their investments of about 1.2 billion and 1.7 billion spent in development parties. These need to be protected, these investments. And so far, Indian assets have not become targets of the people of Myanmar, sending a clear message against what's happening in China, folks. So, more has to be protected. We have invested a lot of money, and do remember, while Chinese assets have become targets of the anger of the people, Indian assets have so far not done so. Therein lies a message for India's politics, India's geostrategic initiatives. Folks, Jai Hind.